Thank you all for coming. This is the title of this program, as I'm sure you know, and we're all quite excited to have the opportunity to present this to you. We have here represented a total of 20 currently, but counting by the day, these totals of nearly 22,000 hotels globally, 46 brands, and 92 countries at least, because I think there's some overlap between two of the companies on the panel here. One has 92, the other has 91, and I bet there are more than maybe 95, but we're not going to go into that. We have 115 years of combined experience of franchising and hotels on the panel too. Very quick introductions, because we haven't got that much time. Jeff Andrew here in the middle with the red tie is the Chief Operating Officer of World Hotels, based out of Frankfurt. Rui Barros down at the far end of the table is a Senior VP, Managing Director, Europe, Middle East and Africa for Wyndham, based out of Hammersmith. I almost hesitate to say based out of, because they flit all over the place constantly. Duncan Berry, Chief Executive Officer of Choice Hotels Europe, focusing on UK, based out of London. Patrick Fitzgibbon, Senior VP Development, Europe and Africa, Hilton Worldwide. Would you mind coming over to this side, please, because we had a cock-up with the seating arrangements. So we're trying to make this nice and cosy. And then Arnaud Vink here from Accor is VP and franchise development for France, so responsible for very large numbers of franchisees in multiple brands in the French market. And before that had a role in development. A few words about me and my law firm, Field Fisher Waterhouse, 500 lawyer international commercial firm, headquartered in London, offices in Paris, Brussels, Hamburg, Munich, Shanghai and Palo Alto. We are full service. We have a very strong hotel practice group. I'm co-head of the franchising team. We are last year's Chambers Global rated our practice one of only two leading global practices worldwide. The other is in the US. I've been involved in franchising for more than 30 years. We look after the real estate, construction, financing, all aspects of life for those involved in the hotel sector. Over the years, I have worked with, I'm saying not the majority, but certainly very many of the major global hotel brands in the franchising context. And I got into franchising at the age of 30, after being an international city tax lawyer for a few years, and went off to Frankfurt to join McDonald's EMEA headquarters group, stayed with them for about 10 years, intensive new country opening, foundation laying phase of expansion, got excited by franchising as a business development technique and came back into private practice in the 10 years, so 94, and have been at this ever since and still remain very excited by it. We thought we would start, what we're going to do is bounce a series of questions off the panel members here. But I want to very quickly whip through some of the key features and advantages of franchising as a technique, an expansion technique for franchisors and franchisees. So here we go, extensive and potentially rapid brand expansion into new markets. Now that can be both on a domestic scale, but clearly multinational global expansion as well. I say potentially because it's absolutely critical to be steady and careful. Use of third-party resources. Obviously, the capital funding resources are key. It would be completely impossible, I'm saying that deliberately, completely impossible with the scale of funding required in this particular sector to get up to 100 countries using corporate resources. Quite impossible. There are places you would not want to go, and the prospect, except perhaps for a very few who've been around for donkey's years and have well-established corporate operations around the world, to monitor the shareholders' funds being deployed internationally, rules that out for many players. So use of third-party resources, capital funding, and critical the people. This means that, dropping down a point, at the centre, franchising organisations tend to be fairly light, nimble. They don't typically have enormous headquarters offices. They develop centres of excellence regionally, nimbly recruiting and supporting franchisees. The role of the franchisee is quite critical. The ownership incentive, the focus on the local market, important initially for development, permitting, construction, all the rest of that, which sometimes is difficult for others to achieve in some local markets, and then on an ongoing basis doing business locally. So the franchisor at the centre concentrates on driving growth, introduces innovation, supports the network, and critically is behind driving the brand marketing, promotion and market penetration for the brand. Recruiting franchisees, another key function, and basically looking after the opening of new outlets. Financial and cultural re-engineering of big corporates is sometimes, we know there have been cases in the hotel sector of massive re-engineering of corporately owned organisations, turning around the ratios. There are issues for culture when you do that. One of the points I wanted to make is that, particularly for those who are new into this area of learning about different techniques, it's very important not to get apples confused with oranges. There are different techniques that can be used and should be used in different contexts. And the context is everything. The property, the investor operator, the nature of the particular business that you have in mind, and the financial planning for it. And then very quickly here, some of the techniques used, by no means all of them, there are combinations evolving. Combining company-owned franchise businesses in a network, plugging in additional brands into the system, with many examples of this on this panel. That's why 46 brands represented here. Very common in the hotel sector because of the level of investment, single unit franchising, granting rights to build and operate a particular hotel property. Individual operators who are good and who are resourced expand and can become multi-unit operators. Occasionally, development rights are granted for a territory. Rarely, master and sub-franchising structures are used. What that means is that for an international region, say Scandinavia, say a group of Southeast Asian countries, the mother company franchisor grants the rights to a business based, say, in Singapore to become the franchisor for that region. And that company then itself sub-franchises, becomes a franchisor, becomes a centre of support and centre of excellence for its region, and looks after the region. That's cutting the cookie three ways, the financial cookie three ways. There are significant disadvantages with that technique, which I won't go into. Management and service agreements, combinations thereof, joint venture. I put joint venture operators up here on this slide. Those who invest in the operator can be many and varied. And there can be JVs, there can be full-blooded, there can be JV light, I've called them combinations. Then the last point on here is a very interesting issue. We have World Hotels here, a very different business model from conventional business format franchising. And so the point I put here is there are different levels of format prescription out there in this wonderful world of third-party relationships that we're creating with our expansion. There are advantages and disadvantages of that. So, advantages for franchisees. Joining a proven business system and network lowers the risk of financial failure and underperformance. We've already mentioned from the franchisor's point of view the importance of local ownership focus. The ownership gives you the incentive to expand, deliver financial results, and operate more hotels. The prominence of the brand and the consistency with which the brand is represented, both maybe just on a national basis, but certainly regionally, for some of these people globally, drives very strong driver of customer recognition and loyalty, meaning more business, potential for new builds, potential for conversions in different contexts. So, other advantages, there are systems and standards in many aspects of running successful businesses. These are developed by and honed over the years by the franchisors. The extent to which, I've said many aspects, certainly various aspects, the extent of prescription will vary from business to business. Basically, it's all about consultancy. The franchisor's key role is to act as a consultant, an expert consultant to those businesses out there in the field. And it starts with planning and development, oodles of know-how, transfer and training, everything from operational management skills, purchasing, procurement, quality issues there, economies of scale there, discounts and rebate issues back to the network. And then clearly marketing, channels of distribution, loyalty programs. Over recent years, hugely increased importance and significance of technology in many, many aspects of the business. And I've also put down here monitoring and analysis tools. So you're consulting with the franchisee. It's not just about the top line. It's also, it's critically about the bottom line. The most experienced experts in their systems will deliver significant value to the operators. So it's about consultancy. And then finally, availability of financing for franchisees. The banks understand and love franchising. It is regarded as low risk in the right hands. Motivation factor, partners in the network, lots of learning through growing together and sharing, involvement in developing ideas, bubbling up from the field, and growing, becoming potentially a multi-brand operator. There are some enormous operators, franchisee operators in the United States, enormous companies, quoted companies. Private equity in the United States understands and loves franchising. They invest in franchisors and they invest in franchisees. In Europe, we've got a fair way to go by comparison with the US. Arguably, we will never want to get there. In the US, some 70% of hotel properties are branded. In Europe, it's more or less 30%. Lots of opportunities. And so those are the basic drivers. I think these numbers are fantastic and actually say an awful lot and speak for themselves about the significance, the importance of these techniques. But I did want to emphasize, because of the people we have on the panel, that this is about global expansion, but it's also a technique that can be very successfully used in domestic expansion in a significant country. So we have Arnaud from Accor here, and you will know that Accor have many, many franchisees in France in different brands. So, I'll go back. What I'd like to do is run down the panel very quickly and ask you all, if you would, for your companies, to tell us how many years your company has been franchising for, how many hotels you've got in total in your network, and how many brands you've got and how many countries you're in. If you can remember that, I'll remind you. Rui, do you want to start?
By the way, that was a great sell job on franchising just earlier. Well done.
Oh, thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Roy Barros. I'm with the Hotel Group. We have 7,490 hotels around the world, 70 countries. We've been doing this since 1990, so over 20 years. So in franchising is our core competency.
You have got any company hotels, company owned?
We have a couple,
right?
But that's again not our core competency.
No, I understand.
Franchising. Yeah.
Duncan?
Good afternoon, everyone. Choice Inc. is celebrating their 75th anniversary this year, so been involved with it for some time. We've 6,300 hotels globally. Of those, we've got 10 brands plus a sub-brand, which mainly are in the US to that extent in terms of the number of brands, and we're in 35 countries. In Europe, we've got 2 master franchise operations, one in Scandinavia, one in Ireland. The rest of the markets are effectively wholly owned subsidiaries of Choice Inc., so direct franchising into those markets.
Company owned?
No company owned, it's purely franchising,
Okay.
is Choice's business.
Right.
Yeah.
Jeff?
Good afternoon, everyone. Well, I guess I sit here representing, if you like, the antidote to the big brand. I'm here to represent the independents and the smaller guys. We have 450 hotels worldwide in 65 countries, 430 of those on a traditional affiliation model. 20 of them, which we've started to do more recently in the last 2 to 3 years, are hard branded with the World Hotels brand. So the World Hotels is in the name and is above the door. So that's a fairly recent innovation for us, but on the whole, we're in the business of a combination of branding and affiliation.
Thank you. Arnold?
Arnold Vink, Accor, heading franchise and development in France. Sebastian Bazet told this morning, Accor is the biggest operator of hotels in the world. But we're also a big franchisor, and we've been doing it since the beginning of our hotels. So the first hotel was in 76, the first franchisee was in 1970. So the development of Accor is mainly thanks not only of the operations, but also of franchising. And so this is what you told us. Franchising is a really mean to be able to grow, and we've grown all over in the world to be one of the biggest companies, let's say, except for the US. But operator and franchisor, which is a key difference, I think, with the other groups.
So you do have company-owned properties?
We have a lot of company-owned properties. It's about 40% company-owned, 30% franchise, 30% management hotels, and that's one of the big differences. And I think we can talk about it. But it's important for us to test our concepts, to work on our concept in our property in our owned hotels before franchising it. So we know what
Thank you.
how we work with it.
Patrick?
Yeah, good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, just. Hilton Worldwide, we welcome back to the public markets in December. We've 4,100 hotels. I think all of us get a brief from our comms team to say we're the biggest and the best, so I keep going down here. We're the biggest and the best, I think I've got that here. Our franchise estate globally represents about 70% of our hotels. Interestingly enough, you go back 7 years, in Europe we had pretty much no franchisees, one hand, 5, 10 franchisees. Today we have 90. Became a decision when we brought some of our traditionally US-centric brands internationally. One of the models that we recognised for growth was franchising. And so we now have about 25% of our European estate is franchised, having been 1 or 2% 7 years ago. So a big change for us. But globally, about 70% of our portfolio
Matter of
is
interest, is there a policy behind this?
It's not policy, it's about reading markets and recognising, I think, the emergence of, in the same way there's been an emergence of branding that's sort of blown over from the US. Franchising is a model that's been highly successful, and I think you can look across, from coffee shops to restaurant concepts. The franchise model, I think, in many respects grew up in the US and then has been exported around the world very successfully, and hotels, like other businesses, has followed suit.
Yeah, definitely. So next question is, so here is this fantastic growth. How are you going about continuing to expand and grow your businesses? Now, you're franchisors, you're also some of you are also operators. How significant is franchisee recruitment? How do you go about doing it? Who wants to start? Really? Yeah.
So for Wyndham, our focus is franchising, so it will continue to be our growth engine. But there are certain markets where management is a focus for us as well. So there are certain markets like Africa, for example, or perhaps even the Middle East, where we're actually offering up management contracts simply because that's what the need in the market is.
There isn't any experience out there.
Yeah, it depends. I mean, if we have a great partner, a great operator, then clearly we would be happy to franchise. But if there's a need for an experienced operator, then we can provide that service as well. But generally for us, I mean, again, if you look at our portfolio of 7,000 hotels, the majority of
And certainly from Choice's point of view, being purely franchised, it's vital to be looking at the right partner. In the markets where we currently have a presence, UK, France, Germany, it's really getting out. We know the traditional methods of franchise recruitment. If you're looking at the coffee shops or restaurants, they don't apply to the hotel franchise industry, I believe. You're not going to find many prospective franchisees walking around these franchise exhibitions. So from our point of view, it's vital. Events like this really, but networking, being able to be looking to bring contacts together. We benefit from referrals from within the group of existing franchisees, which certainly no doubt help, but also increasingly from industry contacts. Is really what we need to be doing, as well as identifying hotels within the markets that we believe will suit one of our brands and making direct approaches to those as and where we're able to. So it's crucial to do that.
Are any of you other guys approaching identified hotel properties to try and talk conversion as a matter of interest?
We are. If you're
You
looking?
are?
Yes, yes. What you're saying about growth is, for a franchisor's point of view, growth is key. It's the most important subject for franchising, because that's the way you're going to generate more business for your company. From a franchisee point of view, the question is also, does the company grow too fast, and does the franchisee give too many brands in a certain area, and might that have an impact on their own hotel, on their own brand in their hotel? So what we see, and even in the French market, where we're a very dominant player, we have 900 hotels, we still opened 40 hotels in France in franchise, and mainly we converted independent hotels to branded Accor hotels. All kind of brands. One of the main reasons today is the OTAs. What we'll see is the independent hoteliers have so many extra costs of the OTAs they're faced with. They started with 50%, 10%, 50%, sometimes I see in France 70% which go through the OTAs. And they know if we can get it branded, they can reduce their OTA costs and they can go through direct booking with their core systems, which is essential. So there's still a lot of growth for our core, even in very mature markets, franchisee markets as in France.
That is a very interesting, just quick observation there. This is a very focused, country-focused development program. And those are enormous numbers, multiple brands in France. There is an organisation there in that company in the French market dedicated to rooting out and growing in whatever ways make most sense, and that includes obviously direct approaches. It is a bit different cross-border recruitment of franchisees. I mean, I guess, Patrick, you have, as many of the others have, you've probably stacked up appointments at your stands throughout these 3 days, and this kind of event is a fairly important event from a recruitment point of view.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you step back away just for a second from franchising, I think one of the single biggest changes that's occurred in the European hotel market for the last 7 years is the flight to brand. I think when markets have been difficult and more competitive, I think independent hotels have recognised that they need to be visible from a consumer perspective. And I think that if you take a brand for us like DoubleTree, which was a relatively unknown brand in Europe 7 years ago, for those Europeans who travel to the States, they will have come across the brand. But we took that brand predominantly franchise, which is about existing hotels, and found existing owners, very capable owners, very competent, who just didn't have, the hotels were just not visible. In a market like London, I mean, we've got 45 DoubleTrees now across Europe, fabulous properties in great condition. We have 10 in London. I mean, 10 DoubleTrees in London, people say you can never put 10 in London. They all have their own market, they're all existing hotels, and they've converted. And those owners have been able to benefit from a system that the hotels have maintained their unique identity, but from a quality perspective, consumer understands what they get when they go to those hotels. All a little bit different, but the quality's there. And I think the owners have benefited from a business system and distribution and technology that they could not possibly have contemplated. And I think that in Europe, franchising has grown through conversion and also new build. The new build's more typically been in the focused serviced arena for us, Hampton and Hilton Garden Inn. But I think that events like this are critical. I'm not sure I agree And I'm happy that the Choice guys don't go to the franchise conferences for the retail food and beverage guys, because we do think that franchisees in other industries are aspirational, and we've seen very successful restaurateurs and coffee shop operators who've in a family business environment where they're looking to grow their business. And interestingly, the second generation. So the parents may well have operated some great restaurants. The second generation, the kids have gone to university, very smart, very bright, have a really strong understanding of financing, may have gone to hotel school and now started to build hotels into the family enterprise. And that's something we see more of. And the other thing about franchising is that our franchise model is predicated on multiple franchisees. I think my colleague who's sitting here in the States, 70+% of our franchise applications every year are from existing franchisees. And there is no better testament to the system working than people who want to do more with you. And I think that's the case in franchising, is that people may start with one, it's successful, they may grow, but typically they'll all do it in markets and regions that they understand. So they'll know a market, they'll know a particular region, and they'll grow their business in it.
So we do have former, no doubt, multi-unit, Yum, KFC, Burger King, coffee shop operators, growing up aspirationally.
Particularly in Europe, I think, where franchising is newer. I mean, you've been franchising a long time in Europe, but for us, more relatively 7 years.
Is that also a feature in France, as a matter of fact? People growing up from other franchise businesses, amassing funds and popping them into hotels in your country?
I have less examples that I give to
They're
it
doing
because
they're not doing it
because just tell you why. Because I went also to these franchise meetings where it's a more sandwich shops or clothing or flowers selling. But the big differences between hotels and those kind of franchisees, the capital investment.
Yeah, sure.
And I met a lot of people and went to those things, and they said, "Well, I sold my flower shop. Can I have a franchisee for a hotel?" So, no, you need a lot of capital to build a hotel. And this is the big difference between those kind of franchisees. With 50,000 euros, you can start your business. In hotel business, you need some extra money.
But there are an awful lot.
Sorry.
He says, go ahead.
No, go ahead, sorry.
My turn.
Yeah, your turn, Joe.
I hate to pick a fight in the answer to the first main question, but I'm going to, because you asked about growth and how do we grow. Most of our growth comes through referrals, and many of our referrals come from disaffected and unhappy clients, so the gentleman sitting to my left and my right. Because the truth is, there are more and more owners who are asking the question, am I getting my money's worth? And the answer is often no. And, I can take your point about OTAs, but you know what? I think about that and I say, slicing a % here or there off an OTA cost, in the overall context of the brand cost, is a drop in the ocean. I mean, we can provide the entire engine that drives the business to our hotels at a fraction of the cost of any of the brands that are sitting around this table. And the voice that we're hearing louder and louder out in the marketplace is, we don't need to do this anymore. Let's just stop. It's all madness. You can shuffle the flags all you want, but at the end of the day, you're still going to end up with a huge bill. And I have to say, you question, am I getting my return on my investment? Or is the market changing? Is something else happening out there? And the truth is, when you look at the market, now we're all consumers, aren't we? We're all sitting here now with our suits on, and we're all here as business people. But come this weekend, unless you've been condemned to a weekend at ITB, God bless you if you have, you will be home, you'll have your jeans on and a sweatshirt, and you'll be booking hotels. Now, what will you be doing? Many of you out there will turn straight to TripAdvisor or one of those equivalent sites, and you'll be saying, you know what, I don't need the brand anymore to tell me whether this is a good hotel. I can find out for myself. I'm not going to use that as the indicator. So the whole market in terms of how hotels are being booked is changing, and what's happening right now is that we're sleepwalking because we're talking to ourselves and we're not recognizing the fact there is a huge market out there that doesn't want that cookie cutter approach anymore. So this is going to be a demand-led change. This isn't just suppliers deciding we're going to change our business model a little bit. This is the public, this is Joe Public, the guests that we all are going to force this change. And I think we're going to find more and more dissatisfaction among those who are running hotels with huge costs and saying, this doesn't work for me. Go have a look at TripAdvisor. Let me tell you this. We did a survey last year of the top destinations in Europe, and we looked at the top ranked hotels, the top 10 ranked hotels for the major destinations in Europe. We found that something like 70 to 75% of the hotels did not belong to one of the big chains. Now tell me what you're going to book. Now this might take a while to feed through. This isn't the sort of the mass fodder of business travel. We know that a lot of that is going to continue on a corporate pattern, but that will follow. There's no question that that will follow. So the world is changing out there, and the old models and the heavy-costed models, quite frankly, they're under threat. So you guys can trade flags as much as you want, but there is an opportunity here for something completely different.
Right.
Can I just say that I think in terms of from a branding point of view, we talk about franchising for growth. I think what is important about the model is though that it's recognised. We talk about these people who are coming from and recognising that perhaps in the food service business where they have perhaps first generation built that up, they're now looking to aspire to other assets that they're wanting to have, but they recognise that the franchise model for them is one that they recognise as being successful. It provides them with that effectively path to follow. They get that blueprint. They can be successful as a result of it. So whether it be pizzas they're looking to do or fast food, they move into hotels. It's happened that way, and it's happened, I believe, from the other way around as well. They've been involved in hotels. They've seen how well that can work for them with the brand. They then can look to build up their portfolio and their business using other brands, but using the franchise model to do that successfully.
Very good. I want to, I mean, if you forgive me, this is a very interesting subject that's been raised here. There is all businesses are constantly under competitive pressures, and we have to look at the future. They have to re-engineer themselves. How do you guys, I mean, some of the biggest franchise networks in the world respond to this? In a minute we can ask Jeff some more questions about exactly how his structure works, because I think Jeff has developed, or not personally, but have developed another fully branded concept as well. Which actually maybe you could tell us a little bit more about that, because what I'd like to do is to ask you guys to respond. What are the differences? If there are potential franchisees, operators, investors out there, what's your message? How should they be analysing the differences? So
we've backed into branding in a sense from the affiliation model. So what we've said is, look, we recognise that hotels and owners are looking for more than just the, if you like, the representation side and the membership. They want a flag to fly. They believe in that. And we provide a more substantial package of services to those hotels. So that's when we have partners that will deliver management services, procurement. We provide a heavier level of consultancy services, revenue management. So all of those things are available. What we're saying is, though, if you own a hotel, you need to feel like you own the hotel. So we're not heavily prescriptive on the operation. That's why, strictly speaking, you could say, well, it's not true franchise. Because we're saying, as long as you adhere to a quality standard that we administer extremely stringently, as long as you hit those quality standards, you run the hotel the way you want to run it. Now what that means is you recognise the creativity and the independence of the owners. They have the opportunity to run the hotel the way they want. And if you go back to what I said earlier, this drive in the marketplace now for these words, you'll see them everywhere. Every time you open a trade journal, you'll see discovery, you'll see authenticity, you'll see people wanting to explore. Well, it's very difficult to get that kind of experience in a highly prescriptive environment. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to get the best of the brand, but at the same time take away the prescriptive nature that says this isn't playing into our audience anymore.
right, so you're okay. So it sounds to me as if there are. I mean, I don't want the others to respond, but there are a number of services that, in many franchised businesses, certainly in hotels, are internalised, are internal to the company. Lots of support services, and in your case. Many of those are made available on an outsourced basis, but from people who know what they're doing in providing those services, presumably.
Best of breed. We don't have to do everything in-house. Right?
All right. Well, could you respond?
The power of the brand, right? So actually, I wanted to make a comment on the crossover. I actually believe that there are a lot of opportunities for crossover in the franchise business. The only thing I would add is, if you don't understand the hotel business, you need a good operator to make sure that the hotels But going back to the notion of a brand and what the value is, I mean, the OTA piece is certainly a piece of it, but it's much bigger than that. I mean, from my perspective, I've been doing this for 15 years with Wyndham, 20 years, and the brand carries value. So in essence, you can't say, okay, well, an affiliation model or this can provide you these types of services. You can't discount the value of the brand, because frankly, our distribution, the majority of our distribution comes from our own channels. And frankly, when you have a powerful brand, in my opinion, it influences buying decisions, regardless of what channel you're using. So I think that's part of the value proposition is, how strong is this brand? What's the awareness in the market of this brand? So I just think you need to take that into consideration when you're selecting.
Okay.
And I think there are going to be some brands, as Jeff was saying, they may be a degree of prescription that they apply to the standards and how they are being applied. But I think it's also fair to say there are other brands, albeit under a franchise model, where there are still minimum standards required, but they may not need to be as required and as prescriptive as others, which still enable them to get the benefit. And I think from a franchise or franchisee relationship point of view, the relationship is the key element of it. It's working together. We're able, I'm sure, amongst the brands here to be able to provide those levels of service, whether that be through marketing, through sales, revenue management, operations. It's building a relationship with the franchisee really to help understand, subject to who that owner happens to be and how they're approaching the asset they've got, is how you're then able to best fill in, I guess, or meet the gaps in the skill set that they may have, or what strategically they're looking to do. So, I think, and again, I think from a value point of view, that is very much something where the franchisor should be identifying those areas to best work with that franchisee, so that they're getting the most from being associated with that brand.
But I also think from Jeff's perspective, I think it's an interesting perspective. I'm not sure that, the 500 or so owners that we've got building hotels today, half our pipeline is under construction. Right. And that those owners who are pretty sophisticated, who've been around for a long time, recognise that what a brand gives you is closeness to the consumer, which is ultimately what this is all about. Mm-hmm. It's about understanding what consumers want today. And changes exist, but I would feel pretty uncomfortable if one of my franchisees decides I'm not going to do wireless internet because it's quite expensive here, so I'm not going to offer it. Or I'm not going to do breakfast till 10 o'clock because actually by 9 o'clock only 10 guests come. Well, and that's brand's role and responsibility is to stay really close to the market, stay close to the consumer. The reference to TripAdvisor is absolutely correct. My bloody wife tells me about all our hotels on TripAdvisor all the time. And there's nothing wrong with that, because actually hotels spent millions of dollars trying to understand what customers wanted for the last 30 years. Now, actually, somebody's built some pretty clever technology. Yeah. And great hotel general managers use that all the time. Mm-hmm. And consumers use it too. And I think that's a really welcome addition to business, because it makes us run better hotels. But what brands give you, and it's about, I think the brands that perform well in the market, and you can see that from the performance statistics that are produced by others, get premium market shares, and continue to get premium market shares, because ultimately they offer the customer what they're looking for. DoubleTree for us is a more flexible brand, because in the upper upscale arena, in particularly for us in Europe, it's about offering a range of products. And so whilst we have standards in place that say that the guest can expect certain things, there's also some markets where the owner may decide to do some additional services because that's the market. Mm-hmm. And it's really important that every market's not the same. Right. And across Europe, many markets, what you can experience in Paris is different to what you might experience in London, what you might experience in Barcelona, and it's important to be able to flex those differences, and great brands do that.
And just interject just slightly there, because my issue is not with brand. I'm not disputing the importance of brand, but I think what we've got here is something that is out of sync or out of kilter, which is that what is being, the price that's being extracted to be affiliated with this brand, and the onerous impositions that are put on owners in terms of how hotels need to be run to be called part of that brand. That's what I'm calling into question here. And I think it is much more to do with a shared relational responsibility now and relationship between the hotel owner, and the brand. It's working together, and it's not just taking the brand as the monolith and saying, well, here's the layers and layers of fees that you're going to need to pay for that. So it's not an issue of lesson in branding. It's how that branding is being applied in the franchise model that I have the problem with.
And are any of the others, Accor, I think, have a different, have a brand that is M Gallery, that is different, a little bit different in approach
It's
too?
a fair point to say, is franchising too expensive? Are we charging too much? Are we delivering our promises? It's a fair point.
What's the answer?
And I'll give you the answer.
Okay.
Every time when we discuss about a new franchisee, we prove it to them. It's very easy. Number one discussion is, how many top line are you going to generate for me? How much extra business are you going to generate for me from having a non-branded or an affiliated to a branded hotel? If we aren't capable of generating extra income for the hotel, forget about the savings and the operational savings, and that might be an extra aspect, but it's very important, the savings we can offer on the OTA, but forget about it. Just about the top line. If we're not able to generate this top line for this franchisee for the cost, then we don't sell our brands. It's very easy. So that is over. In reality, more and more non-branded hotels come to us in order, because they know we can generate it for us. So that might be still, you might say, well, today it's still then, and in the few years it might change if the changes of internet. Sure. So we have to be very careful, and we have to see how to adapt to the internet, to an environment. And we have different things for it. One of our main things is, and I think all the brands is, loyalty program. It's one of the big advantages of a branded hotel, is the loyalty program. It brings so many business through it. Today, Accor, and I don't know about the other brands, maybe different numbers, because the loyalty program started in the US. They've got much bigger numbers than we have now for Accor, but our numbers are rising. We have 30% of our business comes through loyalty programs, and it will be 50% in a few years.
Goodness.
So you take a non-branded hotels, you plug it into the system, and you see the people coming up. So it's an easy way to calculate how much the brand brings me to. Then the second point you said is you have to understand that there are kinds of brands. You have hard brands and soft brands. We have hard brands, Novotel, Ibis. These are the specifications. This is the way you build it. If you want to turn an existing hotel to another hotel, this is the refurbishment you have to do. Here you come, here you go, easy. Then you have in between hotels where it's a concept where we can adapt, Mercure, and then we have what's called a soft brand, which is M Gallery brand, where really we don't want to change a lot of the actual hotel. Maybe luxury hotel, most luxury hotels, it's first we want to keep the name of the hotel, we want the hotel to keep a story, we need some key elements to be found back, but basically it's the existing hotelier keeps his hotel, and what's his advantage of going to Accor? Well, it's a very strong distribution system, and all the extra elements, operational assistance, procurement, which is a big part, and possibly to do business development.
Can I ask you, is that sub-brand, do you have a tagline, a member of M Gallery Network?
No, it's M Gallery, it's Accor Hotel Collection.
Okay.
But I think it comes down to, because Jeff, you have a good point. I mean, ultimately it does come down to fees, and you know, as hoteliers or developers or investors, and you need to make a decision as to whether or not you're getting the value out of your investment. And if you're going to affiliate or if you're going to partner with a brand, you need to make that determination. I mean, my guess is, you know, with many of these brands having multiple customers, that they've seen value in associating with the brand. But I think it comes down to the levels of services and the resources that you get with those fees. You know, so everything comes with some level of cost, whether that be a loyalty program or infrastructure, the marketing that comes along with it. There's a variety of different things: distribution, technology platforms, revenue management, whatever it might be. And I think it becomes a little bit of an apples to oranges comparison if we were to sit up here and say, well, you know, you're not getting the value from a brand, you'd get it more from an affiliation model. I think you need to take a step back. I think you all need to take a step back and evaluate what value do you get from the fees that you pay. Now, you know, generally from our perspective, we believe we have a very strong value proposition. You know, when you roll up all of the services and all the things that we provide as a brand, to include the distribution, to include our marketing, you know, I don't discount TripAdvisor, for example, at all. In fact, we put TripAdvisor onto our own websites a couple of years back. So, I mean, you know, from our perspective, it is important. But I think, you know, you just got to see what fee model, what model works best for your investment. I would argue that you're in a market that's very competitive, you're going to want to make sure you have a strong brand. You know, because in essence, if you don't, you're probably going to struggle in getting your market share. So again, that's something that you would have to evaluate yourselves. And I think it's a valid question. Are you getting value for the fees you pay? But I think, as opposed to us answering that question, I think it should be you answering that question. So,
but it seems to me on this, Rui, that you guys are trying to want it both ways, because you're saying on the one hand, well, you're paying all this money because you're getting the power of the brand. And then you guys are coming up with M galleries and Ascend collection and all these other things where the brand is actually subjugated to recognize the value of this sort of independent traveller market. And then it's all about the engine. It's not about the brand anymore. No, now you're paying for the engine because we've got all the services. Well, which is it? You know, if I'm paying all this money, am I paying for the brand?
But isn't that just a react?
It's really simple. The world's not flat. The world is not flat, and there are many, many solutions for many markets and many consumers. And you know, I think you can oversimplify our business model. You can oversimplify the hotel market. There's lots of opportunity. There's lots of clients looking for different things at different times. You know, many of our clients will use the Hilton Hotel business during the week, and at weekends they'll use Hampton, because that's what they want for their family, and it absolutely satisfies their needs. Now, that customer didn't go onto an OTA. They went straight to our website, because that's where their loyalty is, and said, okay, some of them were burning points, which they've earned during the week business travel. Some of them ultimately said, I know the product, I know I'm going to be well looked after because I understand what it's about. So I think, you know, there are many different solutions, and I think that ultimately the customers, and the customers in this sense are developers, speak volumes. You know, 70+% of our developers building hotels with us have more hotels with us. If they weren't happy, they didn't think the fee model would work, they wouldn't be building hotels with us.
But you guys don't have a non-brand brand, really. I mean, Waldorf Astoria is probably the...
No, all our listen, every brand we have has, you know, has essentially will tell a customer what we're offering. That's important. DoubleTree is probably the most flexible, but ultimately, you know, one of the things about DoubleTree is we'll only take great quality assets, or assets that are known as going to put the capital in, because it's about quality. And that's where we've been. And the reason it's one of the fastest growing upscale brands around the world today is because the owners that have bought into it have invested in the portfolio, and it's a fabulous portfolio of assets. And the consumer, who now understands it, says the same thing.
So the consumers there's plenty of options there for consumer in terms of where they want to stay and what they want to stay for, but there's, I think, also a lot of options as well in terms of the independent hotel operator out there as to how they would like to, if it is a flight to brand, then, you know, what are they looking to, where do they want to go, how do they want to have their business or their hotel managed, or is that through franchise management contract? How do they look to go about that? So, you know, what we're looking to talk about in terms of franchising for growth, franchising is certainly a part of it, is an option that they have available to them. Mm-hmm. It's looking to encourage them that is, you know, the best option for that hotel in that market that they could be looking to do. But I think also, let's not forget the investment that, you know, has happened across all these brands by franchisors, and whether it's in hotels or other industries, they're investing very much in their, you know, in their businesses to ensure that they are very much the forefront of the market, to make sure that anyone who is choosing to brand the hotel with them on a franchise basis is getting the value through the value propositions we're talking about, which we can all, you know, we can all very much talk about that, your revenue management and another side of things, but it is there and it's available.
And the reality is, a franchisor, you know, as we're talking to developers, and one of the things that we have to face and discuss is, can we drive value? You see, frankly, why would I do a deal with a developer in a market where I know very well that the brand isn't going to be able to drive a significant amount of incremental business? Because I'll tell you what happens. A, it's our credibility and our reputation online. But B, we're going to be sitting having this conversation in another year or two where, you know, it's going to be, hey, this isn't working. So for us, it's more about making sure that we're providing the right solution for the right property in the right market. And it may be that an affiliation model is a better approach. And frankly, you know, not every deal is not created equal. You know, and we're gonna go in and we're gonna talk about solutions and how we can provide those solutions and whether or not we can drive value. And then frankly, if the answer is no, we're not going to be able to drive a significant amount of value, then we're going to shake hands and say, you know what, you should probably consider another alternative.
None of us want to make a rod for our own back and basically spend a lot of money with the likes of yourself.
No,
in terms
you
of
got a
getting it
mess to
sorted
sort out
So
later
it's
on.
like this notion,
Yeah.
right, that 70% of your customers are doing more business with you, right? I mean, so why is that happening? Well, it's happening because you're doing business with the right people in the right market with the right solutions. So, if you don't do that, you wouldn't have statistics like that. So, so I think it's important. This is why I say it's really a decision that you need to make, depending on what, the outcome.
Can we move on? That's been a very long discussion. An enormous amount of our time has gone into it. Very interesting. There's a related question. Large networks here, with your large networks, what are the key techniques you are using to manage and maintain standards in large networks? In practice, what do you guys do to maintain standards?
It goes about three things. First of all, it's the standards and the definition of the product and the services. And of course, there's a contract for it, franchise contract, duration, etc. And when we start the contract, you have to be really sure that it's an IBIS hotel and that the service I'm going to deliver is an IBIS hotel, because the customer doesn't care if it's a franchise hotel or a subsidiary hotel. They should know where they go. That's the contract. Second is operational management. So operational management is our advisors or directors of franchise, as we call it, who visit the hotels, and they help the franchisees, the owners. They come to the hotels, they see how the hotels works, they advise the hotels how to create business, how to improve it. They're also there to check if all the standards are respected. But it's not just policing work, it's also helping the franchisee to increase their business. And third is dialogue, which is very important for us. We created with the franchisee a franchisee owner association. So all the franchisees are together, they discuss together. And we want the franchisees to work together and maybe to say to us, well, Accor, maybe you should change this. And why we do that? And the new product you launched is maybe good in Paris, but it doesn't work at all in the south of Spain. So shouldn't in small villages. So should we change it? So we need permanent dialogue. And so it's really about these three different things, being able to manage large networks.
This is, in practice, is one of the major benefits of a franchise network. It's this local ownership incentive, self-interested, my business, and I'm going to criticise. I also have with other issues, we're paying marketing fund contributions to the centre. It's my money you guys are going to be spending on marketing programmes, so you better damn well justify that this is well thought through. And so I call it a kind of reality check from the field, to use an expression that is quite a good one. But the self-interested role of franchisees, and they will bubble up great ideas. The role of the franchisor at the centre is to filter out crap ideas, and in a very nice way, and itself. And I think I think it is true to say that networks who do have some company-owned outlets in them have it a little bit easier because they can pilot. They can do some self-piloting rather than maybe having to persuade a franchisee, a very close franchisee, to pilot and test. But the constant development and innovation of ideas and improvements in the system is quite essential in every business, whether it's a hotel franchise business or a legal business. And it is a very important dynamic in franchise networks that you've got this idea, this bubbling up of ideas, which pushes you on to the next level.
It's not just ideas. I mean, I think look at technology and look at the advance in technology in the last 5 to 10 years in every industry and in life generally. Everybody in this room probably carries at least one personal device or phone, some 2, some 3, some probably even 4 or 5, because that's the world we live in. And for a hotelier today, if you're an independent hotelier, yes, you can go and rely on third-party services to give you that. the reality is for a major franchise organisation or a brand organisation, that investment in technology, which started as soon as there was a sense that things were changing, is critical to meeting the expectation of customers. Customers are impatient today. That they want to know now if I can go and get a room for tomorrow night. They don't want to spend, they want to send a fax. They don't even know how to send a fax. It's so long ago since they sent one. But access to that information and the investment in that technology is something that great brands in any industry will invest in. And they, you have people focused on not today and tomorrow, but what's happening next year and the year after, and where are those trends heading, and how do you manage them, and how do you make sure that you've got people focused on that. Now, the owner of a single hotel is always going to struggle to think about and afford to do that, and that's one of the benefits of being a franchise network. But and I think Arno talked about it. Franchising is a business model. What you need to do is make sure that you support the franchisees so they're using the model optimally. One of my guys describes it as an orchestra, and you have to make sure that all the parts of the orchestra are actually working so that your hotel is optimized. And we call them brand performance support, is about those guys going in, working with not just the owners, but the hotel managers, different parts of the organisation to make sure they're optimising. I walked into one of our hotels recently, relatively newly opened hotel, and there was a guest who just walked in, asked about a room for the night, and brand new hotel, so the staff have had loads of training, and there was a sales patter over the counter, but for a variety of reasons, the guy forgot to say the following are included. And I was able to say to the manager, and that's the sort of thing we do, is say, just remind your staff these are the things that are included. And that's the benefits of a system, is that you can help provide that training, because the hotel industry has a transient workforce. And therefore, training and educating the workforce to be able to support and meet the needs of the customer is something that we spend a lot of time helping our franchisees do that quickly and efficiently. You can't pull staff out for 6 hours and send them somewhere. You need to provide those tools, whether it's e-learning or whatever it is. And that's a big part of what you never see that goes on in franchise.
All of these programs behind the scenes, and the know-how.
One of the other benefits, I think, of being involved in a franchise network, which as a franchise operation we shouldn't lose sight of, is the advantage of being able to utilise strong performing franchisees with others, whether that's from a mentoring perspective or just looking to be sharing the good practice. I mean, we're not dissimilar to Arnold's approach in terms of how we'd look at the dialogue side of it, but I think there's no doubt that from a franchise perspective, certainly we can talk about the benefits of getting on board with various technological advancements that we've invested in to help the hotels, but if actually they're hearing it from their peers, their peer group within the network, there's no doubt that the likes of getting Choice Advantage, our proprietary PMS system, for example, rolled out into a greater number of hotels. If they're hearing that is working well for them from other owners, operators, GMs, wherever it may be, that is also very powerful. And again, that's no bad thing within a franchise network to be able to help get these standards and these elements rolled down.
With very little time left, far more questions to ask than we've got time for, is always the way. I want to ask the question, what are the particular areas which can lead to tension in the relationships between the franchisor and the franchisee? Maybe
Affiliation model.
Well, apart from it, but okay, fees and costs and value for money and all of that. What about introducing change into the nature of the business? That's introducing changes into the whatever it may be. It may be a rebranding. It may be an expensive reinvestment. Can you talk about how that works?
Well, let me take that one, because you actually mentioned innovation earlier, and you also talked about controlling the quality of our network and things of that nature. To me, that's sort of wrapped up a little bit in that in the voice of the customer, right? I mean, so from our perspective, and you talk about franchise boards and getting feedback from the developers and the operators and getting that feedback. That's very important, but more important to us is what are our customers saying? What are the needs of our customers to deliver upon those needs? So for us, as it relates to introducing change, whether that be a new standard or perhaps we take a brand and we rebrand it in some way, it's our philosophy is that that change needs to bring some level of return on investment. It's got to be something that a customer is willing to pay for and sees value in. Otherwise, all we're doing is imposing another cost to our operators. And so the voice of the customer for us is actually critically important. I mean, even within our quality scoring, We do our physical inspections, and we have our folks that goes out and visits our
But
hotels.
what I wanted to get at more was, I'm a franchisee. I've spent a lot of money in this business. I may have just invested in some marketing technology a year ago, and now you guys are telling me you've got a whiz-bang new system that's going to be part of the system that you're going to require us all, and it's going to be fantastic because of the cross-brand loyalty programs. How do you actually go about getting the buy-in from your franchisee community, or do they reject it? I mean, depending on. So, how do you? What are the mechanics that you use with the network to get these changes through?
How we handle it at Accor is we would never impose just like that a new system. If you wanted, for us, our point of view, to be able to succeed with a franchise network with a lot of different people, with a lot of different approaches, and they might have hotels, independent hotels, other branded hotels. So just an approach. So it's again through dialogue how we work. So we discuss with the, let's say, first of all, internally we work on the process. We say, well, we're quite sure it's going to work. Then we're going to start to discuss with the owners' representatives. And we talk to them and say, okay, well, we're thinking this is the way we've handled the rebranding of the All Seasons brand to Ibis Styles, the ETAP brand to the Ibis Budget brand. We discuss with them and say, okay, we want to rebrand it. What's your input? How do you look at it? What would be the troubles with it? And so the representatives of the, let's say in France, there were about 300 different owners, and there are about 10 representatives in their committee. They said, well, some have invested in new beds, can't just impose new beds, so we want to amortize our beds for 3 years. Okay, well, in the contract put 3 years. Well, the new system, PMS system, has to be adapted. The smaller hotels aren't able to pay it, so let's don't do it on a hotel basis, but on a room basis. So we adapted to the model with it. So we worked together with them. Once we were okay with the committee, they presented it to all the other franchisees. They were fine with it. And then we sent out the contracts and we implemented it, and it went very fast. Once the franchisees were okay with it, in 1.5 years, we changed, we rebranded over 1,500 hotels in the world. So it's just through collaboration, dialogue, working together that you can do it. Just imposing a system, it would lead to blockages.
Can I just, Chris, can you just allow me to, because I didn't get a chance on the last question, so I'm going to answer 2 questions in one.
Okay.
World Hotels is
Speed up
not
now.
just a loose affiliation. I mean, quality is really important to us. We are a brand. The difference is that the glue that holds us together is the quality standard. And every hotel, we only deal in upscale and upper upscale. So every hotel has to adhere to that quality standard, and we're very stringent with that. Now, you're asking the question about the tensions. It seems to me that in a relationship where you allow that operator to be more flexible, you gave the example of, they come up with a new piece of marketing technology they want to use locally. Well, of course, in our model, that's not an issue. You can plug in to all of the benefits of having a full-blown distribution network and be able to then say, on top of that, I'm going to supplement those efforts with the stuff that I do. Now, provided that hotel continues to operate at the quality level that we expect, then we don't have a problem with that. So I think a lot of the tensions that get caused with imposition of new standards or new models or new systems are avoided in an arena where you can be much more flexible in terms of your relationship.
I think there's important to understand, you are in a franchise system, you're buying into a particular investment proposition and a particular system, and you're granted certain rights, and it may be that the brand is prescribed. Actually, it'd be a badly drafted contract if you didn't have the flexibility to do something. But franchisors introduce levels of change through updating their manuals and training programs. You cannot, though, impose very significant alterations to the core elements of the business deal other than by doing an amendment to the agreement. And that's what Arno's obviously been talking about there in that context. Final question, we've overrun, please do leave the room if you have to. What would you think are the key reasons why your biggest and longest, maybe your longest term operators have stayed with you through renewal and maybe into next generation. The other way of looking at that question is, what are the key characteristics of a successful franchisor? The key characteristics.
Dead simple. Profit.
Profit.
If it works for them, profit's a whole a multitude of things, from
Yep.
happy customers to staff that love working the business. But ultimately, it's profit. And we've got a great example. 3 minutes around the corner. Hampton in
Yeah.
Berlin. It's been open 3 years. You know, it's full, ram full. First hotel to fill for the IHF every year. And it's just ram full because, you know, and people pay a premium, but they pay a premium because the product's very consistent, consistently delivered, great service. The owner makes great profit.
And it's good for you guys too.
Great product, wants to do more.
Okay.
I would add on, of course, a business model, a successful business model is essential, but I'd like to add on trust. Trust in a franchisee model is I think, essential. Trust and transparency today, because if there's no trust, even if it's a successful business model, it's always the hind thought, but what's happening, how's the handling, and so on. So, successful business model, of course, that's just the start, but then trust.
Anyone
Okay,
else?
so we
We're going
can
to have
add
to
them
wrap
up.
this up.
Add them up as we go along. So we'll do good business, trust, and I'm going to use a word that you might not expect me to say here, but I'm going to say love. Because our longest serving clients are family. You know, these guys just enjoy being part of the overall business. And they're, you know, many of them are dyed-in-the-wool hoteliers who really just love what they do, and we see ourselves as a big family. So I'll throw that one.
That's a strong common denominator of very vibrant systems. It's just this relationship. The power of the motivational aspect is very important.
Well, yeah, so we're getting down to, I mean, I was going to say...
Beyond love.
I mean, admittedly, the one thing that sprung to mind after the ones that the gents have said already was, I mean, a relationship, I think, is extremely strong. So that those that have been with us 15, 20 years, I think the relationship that they have with us is one they value, one they recognise. I think also that they recognise the brand is strong for that particular product in that market, and it's delivering ultimately the business, the profit that they're wanting to have. But I think those elements, in addition to these, are vital.
Anything to add?
Tough being
That, I know. I'm yeah, quite.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll quote. One of our largest customers in the UK just re-signed for 20 years, 28 contracts all in one day. So I'll say what he said, which was, because we asked the exact same question of him, and it came down to value and the relationship that we have with them, which is a lot of the things that we've already heard. So, you know, generally it's coming back down to that.
Okay, thank you very much indeed, panel. I hope you got something out of this session. We've all enjoyed doing this, certainly. If you've got any other questions or follow-ups, you can buttonhole us on our stands, and I'm sure we're all happy to chat to you about the details of our own models and alternative structures and all the rest of it. Thanks for coming.